But Genesis 6 is a challenge for a variety of reasons. I don't want to take a whole lot of time in some wild speculations that are actually found in commentaries regarding some of the things that we're going to read. I will try to give you an abbreviated answer because the point of this passage, as Moses is sharing this to the children of Israel in the wilderness journey, remember the setting, Moses is explaining and showing the children of Israel after Sinai how it is that you have come to be alive in the Lord. And Moses has a story of grace that he wants to share despite the sin that has taken place. And I think all this should perk up. And wow, I want to hear that because I know I need grace in my life despite my sin. I think every one of us in here, if we know the Lord, we would want to say, I want to know God's grace in my life despite my sin. And so I hope you have a lesson here this morning. I titled it Finding Grace in God's Eyes because that is exactly what we're going to see. The ESV translates it favor, but the Greek, or the Hebrew word, the Hebrew word there is translated favor, it's translated as grace. The King James Version translated this Hebrew word as grace, so it means the same thing. But I want to begin with a question. How do you know that you have found grace in God's eyes? Verse 8 says, but Noah found favor, this grace, chesed, the loving kindness of the Lord, the steadfast love of the Lord. But Noah found grace, favor in the eyes of the Lord. So I want to raise the question, how do you know that you have found grace in God's eyes? So just think about that for a moment. How do you know? You might be tempted to think, well, I've got a good job. There are lots of people who don't know the Lord and have never found Him. They don't know what God's grace is. They have good jobs. So think a little deeper. How do you know? When I was in West Virginia a couple of weeks ago, I met for the very first time, and this can happen if you're from West Virginia. I met for the very first time an aunt, my dad's half-sister. And it wasn't just a few years ago that he didn't know that he had a half-sister. She's 72 years old. You're my half-sister. Can you prove it? Oh, yes, you did. Earl Truman, my grandpa, that's her dad. That's my dad's dad. Birth certificate. Let's see, you were born when? You were born the same year, within a month. A month before my youngest brother. And it wasn't my mom, Irma, no. My mom was, and you'd like to hear that. And you're 70 years old. And you find out. And then the story just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, as the story develops, and I'm listening in on this, I am sitting there on the porch. And when she walked up on the porch, I said, hi, Aunt Pat. Welcome. And I'm her nephew. And you sit there and listen. Now, I was told by Dad that he doesn't know if she knows the Lord or not. So I waited and waited. An hour goes by. Her husband is sitting there. And I'm waiting for an opportunity to share the gospel. Just listening. Listening to some really sorrowful stuff. And then I found a way so that she would know, Pat and Mike, her husband, who is a lawyer in Charleston, West Virginia, would know that the only reason why my dad is sitting here and he loves Jesus Christ, knowing that you all came from that behind it all, you have the reason why we're alive today because of God's grace. I emailed her this week. I'll email her again soon. I didn't know that you have found grace in God's eyes. Let's take a moment. We've got time. How would you answer that? One or two of you.
I have a hope that I don't have to make that myself.
Okay? That's right on. How do you know that you found grace in God's eyes? How do you know that the Lord is looking upon you with gracious eyes and not wrath-filled eyes?
He tells us it, and I believe it.
Yeah.
He's not giving me what I deserve.
And that, I'm going to stop right there. Because that's enough right there. To talk like that, to talk like this, you can't talk like that unless God has been gracious to you. Because you wouldn't know how to talk like that.
Hasn't everyone, and even unbelievers, have been given that grace?
Angie, all your life, and you being your pastor, you are always finding another way to say something absolutely spot on. And he does it all the time. It's so cool. And that is exactly right. And I actually think about that and didn't find a way to really insert this in here, but I did reflect upon the image of God in man. They will still find a way to verbalize. Many of them do. That somehow, some way, someone's being good to me, and I don't deserve it. And they don't. They don't know how to explain it. They don't even know who it is, or if the stars are have a line, or whatever, or did they just happen to not step on a crack and didn't break their mother's back? Some other superstition? Something is going on. It's like they know inside. That Romans 1 consciousness. You know, don't you? When we read Genesis and up to this chapter, you discover that Noah is no better than his neighbors. And when we get down to verse 8, but Noah found favor, this grace in the eyes of the Lord. That phrase is the only one that's found just like that under Moses' penmanship. And the only other time Moses writes like that is in Exodus chapter 33, which Moses is up on the mountain alone with the Lord. And Moses says that of himself, that I, Moses, I have found favor, this grace in your eyes. And then the Lord explains that, and the Lord simply says this. Go read it someday. Exodus 33. I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious to. And I will show mercy on whomever I please. Finding grace in God's eyes is a phrase that means that in God's eyes, as He looks upon you, there is grace for you and not wrath. And Noah got that. He knows he doesn't deserve to be on this ark, on this boat. But he's found grace in the eyes of the Lord. When you think about the subject of grace, and I think I've said this before over the years, you can only truly appreciate what God has done for you in your life to the degree that you understand what your life will be like without grace. Do you know what your life will be like without grace? No mercy. God's eyes for you are nothing but filled with fury, and they are bloodshot red with hot anger. Do you know what your life would be like if there were no grace in God's eyes for you? And when you think like that, that's when you truly learn to grow appreciation of how unbelievably merciful and gracious the Lord is to you. There are several things that lead up to, as you notice in verse 8, there is a real contrast there in the Hebrew. Verse 8 says, and I think all English translations are very consistent in this, there's this contrast, and it's translated, but. So that means every single statement that we're going to now read from verse 1 up to verse 8 is this, and this, and this, and this, and this, but grace. And you need to think it and feel it like that. There are several things. Number one, when man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God, and it actually does say that. That's a faithful translation. The sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. This is actually Moses' way of reiterating what Eve did in the garden. She saw that it was attractive, same Hebrew word, good, and she took. She saw it was good, and she took. Same Hebrew construct here. Saw that it was good. You take it. And I think what's taking place here is whether or not we figure out who these sons of God are. Are they demonic beings? Sons of God is a very fluid phrase in Hebrew. It can mean that. It can also simply mean human beings. And that's why the commentaries go back and forth. We're not actually sure. But if we don't actually figure out for sure what this is, we do know this. They saw something that was good, beautiful, attractive, and they took it. And they took as their wives any they chose. We know that what's about to take place here, that something perverted is going on here sexually. Don't know exactly. Maybe the Nephilim, these giants in the lands, that they're the ones that Moses is describing as these giants, these massive, mighty men called sons of God. Does it mean sons of God in the deity sense? Likewise, the New Testament, just because they call John and James sons of thunder, doesn't mean that they're walking around as lightning bolts. These are Hebrew idioms that are descriptive of human beings. And that's actually, I think, the safest way to take this. These are giant, roaming, powerful men upon the earth, and they are taking attractive women and doing as they please with them. And God is seeing it all. And it's what is bringing about the flood. Verse 3, then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also after, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. And the Lord saw, so though men see things that they like and take what they want, the Lord is seeing it as well. And he has a totally different estimation and appraisal of what's going on. He sees it as the verse says, wickedness. And the wickedness is great in man on the earth. I want to say here that what's leading up to verse 8, number 1, goes like this. Honor the marriage bed and save the planet. God sees this wickedness and he's going to flood the earth because of this sexual perversion. Honor the marriage bed and save the planet. You read the same thing in Hebrews chapter 13. You better honor the marriage bed or it's you, your family, and everybody's going down. Now, Cheryl and I love, we really do, and I've said before, we really do enjoy going to Whole Foods. It's got some really special foods.
little pricey, but you can't find them other places. And we really do like going there, especially that double-decker Whole Foods, the biggest one, probably one on the planet, in Chicago, on North Avenue, Route 64. And you walk around Whole Foods, and you see all this Save the Planet PR everywhere. Everywhere. So I like going there. And then the boot stands of how to do yoga and meditation. And not only save the planet, but save that inner light that's in you. And on and on. And I wonder if we'll ever see this statement at Whole Foods: honor the marriage bed between a man and a woman only and save the planet. You will never, ever see that green statement at Whole Foods. Not in a million years. And God sees it all. What He's seeing is a perverted way of taking what is good and you're going to destroy the planet. Now this is very interesting because out of all the sins that Moses could have chosen to link with the flood in showing causality between sin and the consequence of sin, there's lots of sin going on in the earth right now. Lots of them. But this is the one that the Lord is leading Moses to write down of what God is seeing. God is seeing the perversion of the marriage bed on the earth. Do you think He still sees it? Do you think this is hidden from His eyes as all the folks at Whole Foods are trying to save the planet? Not against recycling. Not against taking care of the creation that God has given us. In fact, it's a mandate. Creation care is a mandate. But what if we began with how we think about the subject of sex? And God says you better start right there. You better start right there. So out of all the sins that Moses could have chosen to link to the flood, showing causality between sin and its consequence, it was how humanity had destroyed the sacred bedroom that God had instituted. Now keep that in your hat. Next one. Because all this is leading up to this incredible, beautiful contrast in verse 8. Secondly, we read in this text, less time to sin is God's grace upon mankind. Verse 3. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in the earth, for He is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. So the change from living a really long life on earth is going to come down on average. It's an estimate, like 70 when Moses writes in Psalm 90. You get 70 on average. And now the Lord's going to lower it. And look what He's saying here. The causality of that is, then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever. And the causality of that is because of the sexual perversion on the earth. The point is this. I'm going to shorten your years. And it's graciousness that I do this for all of mankind. And here's why. The longer you live, the more you sin. And the more you sin, I'm going to pound you with my wrath. So, to keep my left hand off of you, I'm going to shorten your years. And you'll have less time to sin. Notice what the Lord is doing here. Less time to sin is God's grace upon mankind. Sometimes I wonder the reason why some people get taken out in this life early, as we call early, maybe it's because go like, you know what I'm talking about. You get less time to sin. And therefore less storing up the wrath of God. So maybe it is better to shorten the life of man than to bless him with a long life that only keeps up more punishment. Keep that in mind as we move closer to verse 8. Thirdly, mankind is increasingly wicked still. As you read the story, thus the rainbow. The rainbow is a covenant. The rainbow is a covenant. It's a promise that I will not destroy the earth like this ever again. And when you read what takes place after the ark settles down and Noah sacrifices a burnt offering unto the Lord as the husband of his, that he too is a sinful man that doesn't deserve the salvation, mankind is increasingly wicked. How do we know that? Because a rainbow was given. The rainbow was given not because God is colorful, though he is. The rainbow was given as a sign. Every time you see that, it's because you're not getting what you deserve. You're not getting what you deserve. As you move through Genesis, it gets really, really, really wicked. Unbelievably wicked. And the only thing that is holding God's wrath back is that I have promised that I will not have a heavy hand like that again. Fourth, God is a sovereign person. Let's pick it up in verse 5. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And that estimation, as I said before on point number 3, it does not change. God says that same kind of thing over and over and over again. Men are still doing what's right in their own eyes. But when you pick it up in verse 6, and the Lord was sorry, and as you know, I preach and teach out of the ESV, and so they have chosen to translate this challenging word in Hebrew as sorry. Let's finish it. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land, man and animals and creeping things and birds of the heavens, for I am sorry that I have made them. Turn with me quickly to 1 Samuel chapter 15. First Samuel 15, verse 10 and 11. Through the penmanship of Samuel the prophet, the Lord says this. The word of the Lord came to Samuel. I regret, and that's the same Hebrew word that the ESV translators chose to translate it as sorry, using the English word as sorry. Same Hebrew word here. The word of the Lord came to Samuel. I regret, I am sorry, you translate it like that I have made Saul king, for he has turned back from following me and has not performed my commandments. And Samuel was angry, and he cried to the Lord all night. You skip down to verse 29, and Samuel wants to clarify, just in case there might be some misunderstanding from his original audience. And also, verse 29, and also the glory of Israel, which was another word for the Lord. And also the glory of Israel will not lie or have regret. Same Hebrew word. He will not have regret. He will not be sorry, for he is not a man that he should have regret, that he should be sorry. So in one verse, verse 11 says, the Lord says, I'm sorry, I regret making Saul king. And Samuel then says, but no, not like that. Not the way you, a man, has regret. The way you have sorrow. Or that you, the old King James Version translated as even repent. Now, that's not the best word. It maybe was in the 17th century, but not now, because repent actually implies that God sinned. Better regret or sorry. Let's keep it consistent like that. And then, furthermore, when you read Numbers chapter 23, verse 19, I'll just quote it to you, Moses writes, God is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should regret, or have sorrow, or repent. Has he said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, and will he not make it good? So let's put this together. I want to say it like this. God is able to feel sorrow for an act in view with foresight of the very pain that he's going to cause. And yet God will go ahead and he'll do it for wise reasons. And a few hours later, he runs away, and I can't find him all over Yorkville for 5 hours. And I finally get him home. And during those 5 hours, I can honestly say, I regret, I am sorry. Emotionally speaking, I am sorry that I spanked. I regret spanking him. But if you ask me, well, would you do it again? If he lied to you, knowing that he could run away again? Yeah, I'll still spank him. Knowing full well the pain and the sorrow and the alienation that is going to take place, yet I would do it. Imagine a judge sitting on a bench, and he sentences a man for life, double life, in prison for a double homicide. No parole ever. And the man lives in prison. He's incarcerated year after year after year, and then the judge hears that the man committed suicide, and then on that, the wife committed suicide and took out another family member. Just couldn't bear the pain. And the judge hears about that. And a judge, if he's got any heart at all for mankind, could honestly say, I regret. I am sorry that I ever sentenced that man. But judge, would you do it again under the same circumstances? Oh yeah. What I did was right, knowing full well the sorrow that it would bring in this family. God has real sorrow. He grieves in his heart. He really does regret. But not like you and I regret. I regret taking the wrong turn. You know why? Because I didn't know it was the wrong turn. You and I regret and have sorrow all the time because we do not have the foresight of decisions and the consequences of those decisions. We're stumped and stupefied. God does not regret like that. He is not a man that regrets and has sorrow like that. So in what sense is Moses wanting us to understand the very nature of God? God saw what was coming. He's already planned for it. But he still has real empathy, real sympathy, real sorrow, real grievances in his heart. Just as a parent, as we walk into the bedroom, and as you know, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. And I'm going to do it anyway. I think that's what we have here. God is sovereign over making man and the flood. He feels true sorrow, real remorse, but not like you and I. He feels it with complete foresight of his own sorrow in his mind, and yet he doesn't. And that's going to play into but. Moses writes that no one's grace and has Lord. Fifth, now quickly. Both wrath and mercy are in his hands. And I just want to say that as a summary statement, because the grace that Noah and his family are going to receive and the wrath that is falling on the earth are both in the Lord's hands. Both wrath and mercy are in his hands. And so we should maybe just pause for a verdict here. Everyone deserves to die, including Noah and his family. But God instructs Noah to build this ark. And then even when the ark lands, God instructs Noah to take some of the animals off the ark. You mean the ones that survived this entire trip? Now we're going to kill them? Yeah. And I want you to offer them up as a burnt offering. You need to be reminded, though, that the only reason why you made it from here to here is because of grace. And this burnt offering serves as a purpose. Someone is coming to die in your place down the road. And that's the only reason why you have found grace. We need to raise a valid question. Where's Jesus in all this? The reason why I raise that is because if I were an Orthodox Jew, if you were in a synagogue yesterday up in Chicago or in Buffalo Grove, and you went into a synagogue yesterday and you heard a Jewish rabbi speak English and teach this text, it is possible that everything you've heard so far, you would hear from a rabbi. And that would not make these words Christ-like. It's not a Christian sermon, not yet, but I'm about to make it a Christian sermon. Are you ready?
Yep.
Ready? Okay. Where's Jesus in all this? In your sermon outline, I want you to just hear these words as the writer of Hebrews tells the story of what it means to find grace in the eyes of the Lord. In fact, let's read this out loud unto the Lord. Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. Here we go. Since then, we have a great high priest who has passed into the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Chapter 9, verse 15 teaches that it was Jesus who made an atonement for Noah's sins. Wow. Out loud together. Therefore, he is the mediator of a new covenant, so that those who are called may receive the promised eternal inheritance, since a death has occurred that redeems them from the transgressions committed under the first covenant, which is all the sins in the Old Testament, including Noah's. Jesus' death is what makes that slaughtering of that animal on that stone when Noah landed on dry ground. It's Jesus' death that ratifies that and puts the covenant of rainbow in the air with the promise, I will never give you what you deserve. And Jesus is what makes that all valid. Every bit of it. Next verse. And without faith, it is impossible to please him. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. By faith, Noah, being warned by God concerning events as yet unseen, in reverent fear, constructed an ark for the saving of his household. By this he condemned the world and became an heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. So now we know what's pleasing in God's sight is faith. And Noah put his faith in the Lord because there was a graciousness coming to him. But we still need to understand a little bit more about Jesus' role in this. Next passage. Therefore, since we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus was the founder, the author, the perfecter of Noah's faith. That's Jesus back there. Next passage. Now may the God of peace, who brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, by the blood of eternal covenant, equip you with everything good, that you may do his will, working in us that which is pleasing in his sight. Stop right there. What is it that is pleasing in his sight that we already read? Faith. It's faith. Why do you have faith? Because Jesus is the author and the founder and the perfecter. Why do you have continuing faith? because He is working in you that which is pleasing in His sight. What is pleasing in God's sight? Faith. That's how you know that you have found grace in the eyes of the Lord and not found it a long time ago. Through, and this is all through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. And the author of Hebrews wants to close this sermon with one line. Grace be with you. Grace be with all of you. In other words, it's always been about God's grace. Finding grace in God's eyes is to have the eyes of your heart open to see Jesus Christ as drowned under the wrath of God and lifted up to provide salvation both at the same time. Jesus did it for you. He did it for Noah and his family. He's done it for you and me. He's done it for millions and millions and millions throughout world history and continues to do it. And now we have these kinds of four statements, I think, that are so beautifully tied back to Genesis chapter 6 in light of the book of Hebrews that interprets it for us. Number one, Jesus provides timely grace, that we may find grace in our time of need. Jesus provides timely grace for the needs of your family. Which means, if you're wondering whether or not God will be gracious to you next week when you need it, worry no more. It'll be there when you get there. And not a minute too early or a minute late. Just when the waters are rising, the text says that God shut the door to you. Just in the nick of time. Jesus provides timely grace for the needs of your family. Secondly, Jesus provides sustaining grace for navigating rough waters. That's the point of Genesis 6. That's the point of the book of Hebrews. You don't know what's coming around the corner, but you do know this. Jesus will provide you all the grace that you need that will sustain you to keep on moving on in this life with faith in the Lord, navigating these rough waters, these trials, these pains, these tears. Jesus ordains the trial and the sorrowful consequence of the trial. And at the same time, He is sovereign and He grieves. He can even feel regret. He can actually say, I'm so sorry for this. Sincerely do so and say it that way. And He's caused it, but He's fully aware of it all at the same time. And if He had to do over again, He will. He is not a great high priest who is removed with distance from this pain and sorrow in your life, but grieves, has real sorrow, has real regret, has real empathy. You can actually affirm, you'll see, it'll be worth it. Just as the pain of the cross was worth it. For the joy that was set before me, I endured that cross. And therefore, for the joy that I planned for you, you'll see, I'm sorry that you're going through this. It hurts me, it kills me, it breaks my heart. But it's my plan. You'll see in the end how this is going to turn out for your joy. You'll see. Thirdly, Jesus provides conquering grace over the world's rejection of Jesus Christ and you. No, condemned the world. He conquered the world. He put the world to silence with His faith. And that's exactly what your faith is doing. You are literally condemning the world. You are conquering the world as it is hostile toward your Savior and toward you, and mocking your Savior and mocking you when you keep the marriage bed in honor. Hebrews 13, verse 1 and 2. He provides conquering grace over the world's rejection of you. And finally, Jesus provides sovereign grace that sustains faith to the end. He is the author, He is the founder, He is the perfecter, He is the one who is working in you that which is pleasing in His sight. And grace be with you. Grace be with you. Grace be with you. It's a perfect tense. It's ongoing. Grace be with you tomorrow. Grace be with you the next day, the next month, the next year. Grace be with you, and grace be with you, and grace be with you until you're finally safe at home. Sovereign grace that is sustaining your faith. Have you found grace in the eyes of the Lord? That too was grace. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, you are the author and the finisher, the perfecter. There's even one English translation that comes close to that word. You are the trailblazer. You are the maverick. You blazed that trail. You went before us, and you won. And that's why, Lord, you are able to turn around and provide us everything that we need to make it all the way through this. And one day the trials will be over. One day we'll settle. The ship, the ark, the safety ark, salvation will settle down, and there'll be no more threat ever again. And we thank you for that. Thank you for the promises of grace that we have in you, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So Lord, may we be encouraged, be reminded that if we have found grace in God's eyes, it's because God has chosen to be gracious to us. Otherwise, all we would see in his eyes is fury and wrath. So Lord, we praise you. We praise you and thank you. As we close, Lord, with this song, I love this song. It speaks that I found a shelter in the Lord. And when the troubles, when the waters rise, you are always and have been and will forever be our shelter. And may we sing with joy.